Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Krishna Rukmini Jaya Satyabhama. Krishna Rukmini Jaya Satyabhama. Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram. Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai. Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada. Jai Mishnapat Paramansa Parivrajakatirishtottara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Mishnapat Paramansa Parivrajakatir Ashtottara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nitya Advaita Gadadhari Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय. श्री श्री कृष्ण रुक्मिणी सत्यभामा की जय. श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय. श्री श्री गौरनिताय की जय. जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24, the renunciation of Kardama Muni. Text number 30. Sviyam Vakyam Ritam Kartum. Sviyam Vakyam Ritam Kartum. Sviyam Vakyam Ritam Kartum. Avatirnaha Asi Me Grihe. Avatirnosi Me Grihe. Avatirnosi Me Grihe. Chikirshuho Bhagavan Jnanam. Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam. Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam. Bhaktanam Mana Vardhanaha. Bhaktanam Mana Vardhanaha. Bhaktanam Mana Vardhanaha. Sviyam Vakyam Ritam Kartum. Avatirnosi Me Grihe. Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam. Bhaktanam Mana Vardhanaha. Sviyam Vakyam Ritam Kartum. Avatirnosi Me Grihe. Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam. Bhaktanam Mana Vardhanaha. Sviyam, your own. Vakyam, words. Ritam, true. Kartum, to make. Avatirnaha, descended. Asi, you are. Me grihe, in my house. Chikirshuhu, desirous of disseminating. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Jnanam, knowledge. Bhaktanam, of the devotees. Mana, the honor. Vardhanaha, who increases. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Kardama Muni said, "You, my dear Lord, who are always increasing the honor of your devotees, have descended in my home just to fulfill your word and disseminate the process of real knowledge." Kindly repeat. Kardama Muni said, "You, my dear Lord, who are always increasing the honor of your devotees, have descended in my home just to fulfill your word and disseminate the process of real knowledge." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When the Lord appeared before Kardama Muni after his mature yoga practice, he promised that he would become Kardama's son. He descended as the son of Kardama Muni in order to fulfill that promise. Another purpose of his appearance is Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam, to distribute knowledge. Therefore, he is called Bhaktanam Manavardhanaha, he who increases the honor of his devotees. By distributing Sankhya, he would increase the honor of the devotees. Therefore, Sankhya philosophy is not dry mental speculation. Sankhya philosophy means devotional service. How could the honor of the devotees be increased unless Sankhya were meant for devotional service? Devotees are not interested in speculative knowledge. Therefore, the Sankhya enunciated by Kapila Muni is meant to establish one firmly in devotional service. Real knowledge and real liberation is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in devotional service. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namavo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langhayate girim yat kripatamaham mande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. At the beginning of the Kurukshetra war, Duryodhana was fairly confident of his victory in the battle. Why? Because of multiple reasons. One was that the size of the Kaurava army was almost double than that of the Pandava army. In terms of size, in terms of power, almost double the strength. Another point working in the favor of Duryodhana was that on his side were Bhishma Deva and Dronacharya, who were undefeatable even by the Devatas. In fact, Parashurama himself had accepted defeat at the hands of Bhishma Deva. And on the side of the Pandavas, the most powerful warrior was Bhima. Bhima and Arjuna were the two most powerful warriors. But on the side of Duryodhana were Bhishma and Drona, who were far greater, far more powerful than these two warriors. Considering all this, Duryodhana felt that, naturally, he felt that by assessing the strength of the two armies, that he was in a greater position. He had a greater probability of winning the war. As the battle of Kurukshetra progressed, 8 days went by. And at the end of the 8th day, there was no such real advantage on the side of the Kaurava army. Both the Kaurava army and the Pandava army were more or less equally placed. This was very disappointing for Duryodhana, because he had expected a very quick victory. But here, despite the bigger strength of Duryodhana's army, still the Pandavas were able to hold them at bay and make as much inroads into their army as much as the Kauravas were making into the Pandava army. Now naturally Duryodhana was disheartened. 8 days over and there is not even a sense of the Kaurava army getting greater advantage. Both of them seem to be equally placed. Duryodhana, when he was thinking over this, he felt that this is simply because Bhishma Deva, who was the commander-in-chief of the army at that time, of the Kauravas, he was not putting enough effort. Duryodhana felt strongly that if Bhishma were to exert himself fully, the Pandavas will be wiped out in one day. Not a big thing for Bhishma. Therefore, he called Bhishma Deva and started accusing him. Just because the Pandavas are very dear to you, you are not putting your full effort into the war. Bhishma Deva, he was stung by the words of Duryodhana. He said, "What are you talking, Duryodhana? Have you forgotten when the Gandharvas came and attacked you? Who saved you? Arjuna. He fought against all the Gandharvas and he saved you. Not only that, in the Khandava Prastha, when Agni was consuming that forest, Indra himself came and Arjuna managed to keep him at bay. So Arjuna is so powerful. He is not an ordinary pushover. And have you also forgotten that in the battle when we all went to the kingdom of Virata, yourself, Duryodhana, you yourself were present. I was there, Drona was there, Ashwatthama was there, Dushasana was there, all of us were there. And all of us together fought against one person, Arjuna. And Arjuna was, at that time, the king of Virata's son, Uttara, was driving the chariot. And all of us combined, we could not defeat Arjuna. And Arjuna, all alone, he defeated all of us. And we had to come back. Have you forgotten all this? Even Karna was defeated. Together, we could not stand in front of him. And today, you have forgotten so easily. You are thinking, I can defeat Arjuna. And today, it is not Arjuna alone. In Virata, in the kingdom of Virata, Arjuna was alone. Today, Krishna is the charioteer of Arjuna. Already, Arjuna was such a formidable warrior. All of us combined together, we could not stand before him. Now, Krishna has become his charioteer. Where do you think we can gain victory? But still, because you are accusing me of undue partiality towards the Pandavas, Bhishma took out 5 arrows and said, tomorrow, with these 5 arrows, with each arrow, I will slay one of the Pandavas. This was Bhishma Deva's vow. Duryodhana, when he heard that, he forgot all kingdom of Virata, all Khandava Prastha, all he forgot. He said, no. Bhishma Deva has taken this vow. Pandavas are finished. Such a foolish person. Anyway, so he thought, but then Bhishma Deva is old. Tomorrow when he wakes up, he may forget where he has kept the 5 arrows, or somebody may steal those arrows. He told Bhishma Deva, okay, Bhishma Deva, thank you very much for this vow. I will do one thing. You give me these 5 arrows. I'll keep them safely. And tomorrow morning when the battle starts, I will hand them over to you. Bhishma Deva said, oh, okay, take it, keep it, no problem. Now Krishna is Paramatma. He is Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows everything that is going on in this world, everything that is going on in a living entity's heart, everything he knows. He called Arjuna and he told him, like this, Bhishma Deva has taken a vow. Arjuna was also thinking, now what to do? Krishna told him, there is only one way. Krishna reminded Arjuna, long back when the battle with the Gandharvas had happened, the Gandharvas had captured Duryodhana. And nobody could save him. Even Karna got defeated. Dushasana was defeated. Everybody ran away. At that time, on the advice of Yudhishthira Maharaj, Arjuna and Bhima fought with the Gandharvas and they released Duryodhana. At that time, Duryodhana he felt very grateful to Arjuna and he had asked him, any benediction you want, you ask me. And Arjuna at that time, he had told, no, I don't want anything. Future, if required, I will ask. And Duryodhana had said, okay. Krishna reminded Arjuna, you remember that boon? Now you go and ask Duryodhana for these 5 arrows. Arjuna went to the camp of Duryodhana. In the night, the battle was over. During the night, both camps could freely intermingle with each other. There was no restriction like that. Arjuna went to the camp of Duryodhana. Duryodhana saw Arjuna. Oh, Arjuna has come to my camp. What a surprise. He received him well. He made him sit comfortably and all that. And he asked Arjuna, what do you want? Why have you come to my camp? Arjuna reminded him of the boon he had promised. Duryodhana said, okay, what do you want? You tell me. You want the kingdom? That's why you come here? Arjuna said, no, I don't want the kingdom. If I ask you the kingdom like this now, when the battle is going on, then people will think that we became cowards, Pandavas were cowards and they could not win over Duryodhana, so by deceit we won over you. I don't want the kingdom, I just want those 5 arrows which Bhishma Deva has given. Now Duryodhana could not say no, it was a Kshatriya's promise. He took the 5 arrows and gave it to Arjuna. Now next day morning, when the battle is about to start, Bhishma Deva called Duryodhana and he said, give me the 5 arrows. Then Duryodhana told him what had happened. That Arjuna came like this and he took away the 5 arrows. Bhishma Deva understood immediately, this is all Krishna's plan. Then he told Duryodhana, see, for me to again create those 5 arrows with the same power like what I created yesterday, it's not possible. Only one time it was possible and that has been taken away now. Now, the only thing is, I am angry that Arjuna has done this, therefore, I am taking a vow, either Arjuna will be killed today or Krishna has to pick up weapons. Bhishma became very angry and he took a vow like this. And that day, Bhishma Dev fought with extra valor and left, right and center in that battle. Nobody could stand in front of Bhishma Deva. Finally, Arjuna came in front of Bhishma and a big battle ensued between the two of them. But slowly what happened? Bhishma Deva started getting the upper hand. And finally, the situation came to such a position that Arjuna was about to be defeated and Bhishma Deva would kill Arjuna. At that time, Krishna got down from his chariot and he picked up one chariot wheel which was lying on the battle. The battle had been going on for 8 days. Naturally, a lot of chariots had been demolished, a lot of horses were killed, men were killed, a lot of things were lying strewn over the battlefield. Some chariot had broken and the wheel was lying there. Krishna picked up that chariot wheel and rushed towards Bhishma Dev to kill him. Now Arjuna saw, Krishna, what are you doing? You have promised at the beginning of Kurukshetra war that you will not pick up any arms. So how can you do this? So Arjuna also jumped down from the chariot. He ran behind Krishna and caught hold of Krishna and told him, no, please stop. Arjuna was trying to stop Krishna from rushing forward. And Arjuna is also not some thin, frail guy. Arjuna is also Kshatriya, powerful, very strong. He is also very strong. Imagine a strong man, he is catching hold of Krishna and while Krishna is rushing forward, thinking that with his power, with his strength, he will stop Krishna. But what did Krishna do? For Krishna, this Arjuna holding on to him, he didn't even bother. He dragged Arjuna also and ran forward. So Arjuna was like, he was holding on to Krishna. Krishna is dragging Arjuna also along, picking up that huge chariot wheel. Shri Krishna Rukmani Satyabhama ki jai. And continued to rush forward towards Bhishma Dev. Nothing could stop him. And while he was rushing forward, Krishna was so oblivious to everything, Krishna didn't even realize Arjuna was holding on to him. Krishna's uttariya, his top, this one, like a chadar we wear, like that the garment which is worn on the top is called uttariya. The uttariya fell off. Krishna didn't bother. He was rushing forward. He was oblivious to everything else. The entire battlefield, everybody stopped fighting and they said, oh, now Bhishma is finished. Bhishma is finished. Krishna has picked up this one weapon. Now nobody can save Bhishma. So at that time, Bhishma Dev saw Krishna rushing forward to him. He put down his bow, arrow, everything. And he said, Krishna, what is Dasosmi? I am your servant. What greater fortune can I have than to be killed by you? Please come. This is the greatest fortune that I can have in all the 3 worlds. Please come. And at that moment, when Krishna saw that, he stopped. Because Bhishma Deva had put down his weapons. And then Arjuna also caught on to Krishna and said, Krishna, please stop. Don't worry. I'll fight to the best of my ability. I will defeat Bhishma Deva. Don't worry. Please don't do this. So then Krishna stopped and he returned to his chariot. So this incident, and then by then the end of the day had come, so the battle also stopped and everybody returned to their home. That night, everybody was only discussing about how Krishna had broken his promise and picked up the chariot wheel. This much description is there in the Mahabharata. Now, why did Krishna pick up that chariot wheel? And how could Bhishma Deva gain an upper hand over Arjuna? In two ways, if you look at it, it's impossible that Bhishma Deva could have come to the point of defeating Arjuna. It was impossible. Because if you look at it, already when the Pandavas, when Arjuna and the Kauravas had fought in the kingdom of Virata, Bhishma Deva, Dronacharya, Duryodhana, Dushasana, Karna, Kripacharya, Ashwathama, so many powerful warriors, at least 7 of them, apart from all the other brothers of Duryodhana. They all fought together with Arjuna all alone. And Arjuna all alone defeated all of them. From the material perspective, if you look at that, when 7 great warriors, apart from the entire army of the Kauravas, could not stand before Arjuna, how was it possible for Bhishma Deva alone to defeat Arjuna? It is impossible. Doesn't make sense. And from another perspective, when Krishna is seated as the chariot driver of Arjuna, how could Bhishma Deva come to the point of defeating Arjuna? Both ways it is not possible. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nobody can defeat him. In his presence, by simply his will, this whole universe is manifested and it is destroyed. Such is the power of Krishna. Simply by his lifting his eyebrow, the entire universe gets destroyed. How is it possible that when Krishna is seated on the chariot of Arjuna, that Arjuna could get defeated? Impossible. Now the explanation for this incident is not there in the Mahabharata. That explanation is there in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. From the mouth of Bhishma Deva himself. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the description is given of how Bhishma Deva, when he was lying on the Sharasaya, on the bed of arrows, after the Kurukshetra war was over, all the Pandavas went and met him, and Krishna was also there at that time. At that time, Bhishma Deva, while giving up his body, he submitted his prayers to Krishna. One of the things that Bhishma Deva prayed to Krishna, he prayed, Swanigamam apahaya mat pratijna mritam adhikartum avaplutaha rathastaha avaplutaha. Rathastaha, Krishna was seated on the chariot, and avaplutaha, he got down from the chariot. Why did he get down the chariot? Dhrita ratha charano abhyaya chaladgur haririva hantumibham gata uttariyaha. Gata uttariya, his uttariya fell down, and Dhrita ratha charanaha, the rathas, the chariot wheel, Dhrita, he took it up in his hand, and chaladgur haririva hantumibhaha. Ibha means elephant, and hari means lion. Like a lion rushes forward to pounce upon an elephant to kill it. Like that, Krishna rushed forward with the chariot wheel towards me in the battle of Kurukshetra. Krishna got down from his chariot for this. Now, why did Krishna do that? Krishna did that to protect Arjuna? No, Krishna did not do that to protect Arjuna. Bhishma Deva says the real reason why Krishna did that was Swanigamam apahaya mat pratijna mritam adhikartum. To break his promise and keep my promise, Krishna did this. You see Bhishma Deva's analysis. Externally, for all the people on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it appeared that Arjuna was about to be killed, and therefore Krishna got down from the chariot and he picked up the wheel of the chariot and rushed at Bhishma. But what is Bhishma's understanding? Krishna did not do that to protect Arjuna. On the other hand, he did that to break his own promise. Swanigamam apahaya. His own promise he broke. Rittam adhikartum mat pratijnam. To keep my vow, to protect the honor of my vow, Krishna did this. So, Krishna, actually, Prabhupada explains in the purport of that verse, that Krishna knew about the vow of Bhishma Deva. What was the vow of Bhishma Deva? That either Arjuna will be killed today or Krishna has to pick up weapons. So Krishna thought, my dear Bhishma Deva wants to see me pick up weapons. So let me do it. Let me break my promise because Bhishma Deva desires to see me pick up weapon in the battle of Kurukshetra. Therefore, I'll break my promise. And therefore, Krishna created a situation by his will such that Bhishma Deva appeared to have overcome Arjuna. Otherwise, it was impossible for Bhishma Deva to defeat Arjuna. But Krishna willed it, and therefore that situation became like that, and Arjuna was not able to counteract Bhishma Dev, and Bhishma Dev was on the verge of defeating Arjuna. And therefore, the opportunity presented itself for Krishna to break his vow and keep the honor of the vow of Bhishma Dev. You see how Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for him, the honor of his devotee is far more important than his own honor. Krishna is ready to break his own promise, but he will not allow the promise of his devotee to be broken. Krishna protects the honor of his devotee at all times. And that is why it is mentioned here by Kardama Muni also, that Bhaktana Manavardhanaha. Krishna, is always increasing the honor of his devotees. Krishna will increase the honor of his devotees at the cost of breaking his own promise. This is Krishna's love for his devotees. And in the case of Kapila Deva, Krishna broke his own promise to keep the honor of Bhishma Deva. In the case of Kardama Muni, how is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila Deva, going to keep the honor? He is going to increase the honor of Kardama Muni by Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam, by disseminating knowledge. Kapila Deva, whenever the Supreme Personality of Godhead incarnates or descends into this material world, he achieves multiple things. And Kardama Muni is saying that Kapila Deva, he descended for 3 purposes. What is that? First is Swiyam Vakyam Ritam Kartum. To keep, first reason for Kapila Deva's descent is because Vishnu promised Kardama Muni that he will come as his son. That was the first reason for the descent of Kapila Deva. Second descent is Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam, because the Lord wanted to disseminate Sankhya Jnana, the Sankhya Yoga, the process of Sankhya Yoga, by which the people could become devotees of Krishna. And Bhaktana Manavardhanaha, to increase the honor of his devotees, Kapila Deva has descended. So Kapila Deva descended for 3 purposes. One is to keep his promise to appear as the son of Kardama Muni. The second was to distribute Sankhya Yoga. And third was to increase the honor of the devotees. Now the question that comes up is that Sankhya Yoga is generally considered to be the impersonalist analysis of this material world to come to a final conclusion that Jagat Mithya, Brahman Satya. To come to this conclusion, Sankhya Yoga is assumed to be utilized by the Jnana Yogis. However, interestingly, here Kardama Muni is saying, Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam Bhaktanam Manavardhanaha. By spreading the knowledge of Sankhya Yoga, Kapila Deva wanted to increase the honor of the devotees. How can the honor of the devotees be increased if some impersonalist knowledge is spread? Therefore, one can understand that the Sankhya Yoga, which was distributed by Kapila Deva, actually is an exposition on devotional service, on Bhakti Yoga. The Sankhya Yoga, which leads to Bhakti Yoga, is the real Sankhya Yoga, which is expounded by Kapila Deva, not the atheistic Sankhya Yoga, which is propounded by another false Kapila Deva. That is not the real Sankhya Yoga. Because when we speak of Jnanam, in the first canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Narada Muni met Vyasadeva when Vyasadeva was feeling despondent, having compiled the entire Vedas, Upanishads, having written the Mahabharata, Vedanta Sutra, Having done all this, and having written 17 Puranas, having done all this, Vyasadeva was feeling a little despondent. At that time, Narada Muni came to Badarikashrama, to the ashrama of Vyasadeva, and he met him. And Narada Muni was the spiritual master of Vyasadeva. At that time, Vyasadeva explained to Narada Muni that selflessly, just for the benefit of the public, of the general mass of people, I have compiled the entire Vedic scriptures, but still I feel some vacuum within myself. I feel something is missing. I'm not feeling the satisfaction of having served all the people. What could be the reason? And I have done this without any self-motivation, without any personal agenda, simply for the welfare of the people I have done this. But still I am feeling dissatisfaction. What could be the reason? At that time, Narada Muni informed Vyasadeva that yatha dharmadayaschartha munivaryanu kirtitaha na tatha vasudevasya mahima hi anuvarnitaha. Munivarya, O best of the sages, dharmadayaschartha anukirtitaha. You have very greatly you have explained the different aspects of dharmadaya, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. The benefit of following dharma, artha, kama, moksha, you have explained very elaborately in the Vedic scriptures. But like you have elaborately explained the advantage of following dharma, artha, kama and moksha, Vasudevasya mahimana tatha anukirtitaha, anuvarnitaha. You have not explained to a sufficient extent the glories of Krishna himself. And therefore, you are feeling despondent. Why? Because Vyasadeva has dealt with only transcendental knowledge in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, in the Vedanta Sutras and all that. So he has, although he might have discussed about dharma, artha, kama, he has also given the knowledge by which one can attain moksha. And jnana, knowledge, is considered the most important. If such transcendental knowledge Vyasadeva has given, what is so great in not having described the glories of Krishna? Narada Muni further elaborates to Vyasadeva. Naishkarmyam apyachyuta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanamalam niranjanam kutapuna shasvadabhadram ishvare karma na karma chapya akaranam. He said, Narada Muni said, that achyuta bhava varjitam, if jnanam alam niranjanam, although transcendental knowledge, although you may be giving knowledge of Brahman, you may be giving of knowledge of Atma, spirit, soul, different from this body, all these things you may give. But all such knowledge, achyuta bhava varjitam, if it is not carrying the spirit of devotional service to Krishna, achyuta, na shobhate, it is not auspicious. Even normally in this world, material knowledge is considered inauspicious knowledge. Knowledge of the soul and knowledge of Brahman is called auspicious knowledge. Why? Because knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of the soul can liberate us from the cycle of birth, death, disease and old age within this material world. It can give us permanent liberation from distresses within this material world. Material knowledge, how much ever we may advance in material knowledge, we cannot become happy in this material world. We can only increase the distresses. That's like we are seeing in the modern day world also. The advancement of science, technology, medical science, lot of advancement has happened. In the field of IT, we have now artificial intelligence, mobiles, all these kind of communication has become so much easier. If you look at this, the material world has advanced so much in material knowledge. But have the distresses of the people reduced? No. In fact, the distresses of the people have only increased. The mental afflictions of the people have increased. Number of suicides in the world have increased. Cases of people undergoing depression has increased. So the distresses of the people have not reduced. People are still dying. People are still becoming old. Diseases have become more. 100 years back, if you look at the number of diseases that were there in the world, and today if you look at the number of diseases, it has only increased. 100 years back, 200 years back, there were hardly anybody knew about cancer. Heart attacks were very rare. Today, Heart attacks, cancer, these have become very common. You have some problem, you have some stomach pain, you go to the doctor, first thing you will do is test for cancer. 50 years back, even 25 years back, when I was a small child, cancer and all was very rare. Somebody got cancer means everybody will be shocked. Oh, you got cancer. Somebody died of heart attack, 95 years old. We say, oh, you died of heart attack, 95 years old. 95 years old, you may get heart attack. That used to be the situation 30 years back. But today, anybody and everybody, 20 years old, you have to start getting your checkups every year to ensure that you don't get heart attack. And still people get heart attacks, cancer, all these things. So we have advanced in economy, science, different branches of material knowledge. It has only increased the distresses. Therefore, material knowledge is called inauspicious, whereas spiritual knowledge is called auspicious. Now Narada Muni is saying, knowledge, even transcendental knowledge, knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of Atma, which is devoid of the spirit of devotional service to Achyuta, Achyuta Bhava Varjitam, Jnanam Niranjanam, Na Shobhate, it is also inauspicious. Why? Because even knowledge of Brahman and knowledge of Atma cannot give you permanent liberation from this material world. If you have to be permanently liberated from this material world, only way is to execute Bhakti Yoga, devotional service to Krishna. Because Krishna tells in the Bhagavad-gita, Yad gatva ninavartante tadhama paramam mama. Krishna says, if you execute devotional service, if you execute Bhakti Yoga, you can come back to my abode, means Krishna's abode, Goloka Vrindavan, and going there, there is no more coming back to this material world. Whereas Krishna, in the Bhagavad-gita, nor anywhere in the Vedic scriptures, it is stated that if you get impersonal liberation, if you simply get mukti or moksha, there is full guarantee that you will not come back to this material world. No such statement is there. That means even if you get mukti or moksha, there is always a chance that you will again fall down and come to this material world. Whereas if you execute Bhakti Yoga, devotional service to Krishna, and go back to Goloka Vrindavan or Vaikuntha Loka, there is no more coming back to this material world as assured by Krishna in the Bhagavad-gita. This is the conclusion of the Bhagavad-gita and all Vedic literature. That if you want real liberation, it is only through the process of Bhakti Yoga, going back to Vaikuntha, that one can attain permanent liberation. And therefore, Narada Muni told Vyasadeva that you have described so much about all this jnana in Upanishads, Vedanta Sutras, etc. Na shobhate, they are all inauspicious. Achyuta Bhava Varjitam. Because there is no direct link to Krishna consciousness. Kuta punas shashvat abhadram ishvare na karma chapi arpitam. So if knowledge about Brahman, if knowledge about Brahman itself is inauspicious, then what is the point of talking about Nishkama Karma and Karma Yoga and all these things? Even they are also useless. This is the conclusion of Narada Muni. Therefore, at the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, it has already been established that the Bhagavatam is not going to talk about Karma Yoga, nor is it going to talk about Jnana Yoga. It is going to talk only about Bhakti Yoga. That is the very beginning of Bhagavatam. And therefore, when it is said here in the third canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, that Chikirshur Bhagavan Jnanam Bhaktana Manavardhanaha, that Kapila Deva came to distribute Sankhya Yoga, we have to understand that Sankhya Yoga has to be connected to devotional service. Otherwise, there is no meaning to what the Bhagavatam is talking about. In the very beginning, in the first canto itself, the Bhagavatam has established that it's going to talk about simply pure devotional service to Krishna, Achyuta Bhava, to develop the devotion to Krishna. That's the whole purpose of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So therefore, whatever Kapila Deva is going to talk about will be about Bhakti Yoga only and not about impersonal jnana. And therefore, Sankhya Yoga actually refers to Bhakti Yoga. This is the conclusion we can draw from today's words. If there is any question or comment, we can discuss. Does anybody have any point? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
In the Bhagavad-gita, when Arjuna describes the strength of both Pandavas and Kauravas, when he especially mentions the strength of his army, Kaurava army.
Duryodhana mentions.
Duryodhana, correct. So he says about Bhishma, Dronacharya and Karna and the other associates of him, wherein from Krishna, he had already taken his army, Narayana Sena.
Yes.
So was he not convinced about the strength of the Narayana army, or does he describe the strength of that as well, including his strengths?
Well, basically he speaks about Satyaki. He mentions Satyaki, but Satyaki was on the side of the Pandavas. Basically, what Duryodhana was doing, it was not possible for Duryodhana to mention all the names of the warriors present there. He was mentioning all the important people to Dronacharya, because he wanted to boost the morale of his supporters. So he did not mention the strength of the Narayani Sena. That does not mean that that was not important, because he had about how many Akshaunis? 11 Akshaunis or 13 Akshaunis, something like that. So he had a huge number of warriors who were there with him. So he chose to mention only a few who were really famous and most powerful of the warriors on his side. That's all. So obviously he cannot describe everyone on that battlefield.
And how did he defeat, how did Krishna handle this Narayana Sena?
Sorry?
How did Krishna handle this Narayana Sena, which was undefeatable amongst the battle?
How did he handle? Means the Pandavas fought with them, that's all. They were fighting from the side of the Kauravas, and the Pandavas, naturally they had to fight with them also. So, in the normal course of fighting with all the others, they fought with the Narayana Sena also, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay? If there is anything further you want to ask, you can mention.
If there is any specific description as to how Krishna dealt with the Narayana Sena,
Krishna did not deal with any Sena. He just handed over the Narayani Sena to him, to Duryodhana. That's all. What was there to handle?
Defeating them was not possible by the human beings.
Sorry?
Defeating the Sena of Krishna was not possible by the ordinary human beings, is what I've read in the descriptions.
Because Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas, ultimately everything is dependent on the will of Krishna. Everything happens according to the Ichha Shakti of Krishna, according to the will of Krishna. So the will of Krishna was that the Pandavas will come out victorious. Therefore, even if the greatest of the Devatas had also come in front of the Pandavas, they could not have won. In fact, the Gandharvas are far superior to the human beings. Arjuna fought with them also and defeated them. Arjuna defeated even Indra, who was the king of the Devatas. It is not possible for ordinary human beings to do it, because Arjuna was invested with the power of fighting by Krishna. Krishna invested the power of defeating all these people with Arjuna. So like that, Krishna invested the power of defeating even the Yadava Sena with the Pandavas, and therefore they were able to defeat. Because at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, the entire army of Duryodhana was wiped out. That means even the Narayani Sena was also wiped out, because eventually Krishna also wanted that the Yadava, this one has to be wound up. Because Krishna, after the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna was there only for another 35-36 years. After that, Krishna had to wind up his pastimes. The purpose of his descent was getting over. So naturally the army also has to get wiped out. So Krishna was achieving many things like that. Like that, even all the important people of the Yadava kingdom, like Pradyumna, Aniruddha, all these personalities who were the sons of Krishna, nobody could kill them, but they engaged in a fratricidal war and they fought each other and killed each other. Why? How is it possible? It is not possible. They are all eternal associates of Krishna. They cannot die. But it was Krishna's will to wind up his pastimes and go back to Goloka Vrindavan. So naturally, all those arrangements were done by Yogamaya to wind up Krishna's army, the Yadavas, all the sons of Krishna, everything was wound up according to the will of Krishna and taken back. Similarly, the Narayani Sena is also wound up, because the purpose of the Narayani Sena also was getting over. All the demonic kings were killed in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Dharma was re-established with the Pandavas sitting on the throne of Hastinapura. Everything had been put in order. Wind up everything and go back. That was Krishna's this one. That's how we have to understand. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
What is meant by Sutta Sattva Guna?
What is meant by?
Sutta Sattva Guna.
Shuddha Sattva Guna.
What are the eligibility to reach that?
What is the eligibility to come to Shuddha Sattva?
Yes.
Shuddha Sattva means, just like in this material world, there are three modes of material nature, Satoguna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna, which conduct the activities of the people in this material world. Tamoguna puts people in ignorance of their identity as a spirit soul independent of the body. Rajoguna engages them in activities of sense gratification. Satoguna gives knowledge about oneself and the difference between oneself and the body. This is the function of the three modes of material nature, to put it in a nutshell. Now, similarly, in the spiritual world, because this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world, whatever is here in this material world is originally there in the spiritual world, and whatever is there here is a perverted reflection. So, the reflection of the three modes of material nature, Satoguna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna, are actually a reflection of the guna which exists in the spiritual world to conduct the activities of the spiritual world, to conduct the activities of the devotees and Krishna. In the spiritual world, the guna which acts is Shuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva guna is characterized by the constant awareness of oneself as a servant of Krishna, and that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to serve Him eternally in full Ananda. That consciousness, to create that consciousness in the living entity, is a function of Shuddha Sattva guna. In the material world, because it is a reflection of the spiritual world, the three modes of material nature are a reflection of Shuddha Sattva guna, and this reflection does the opposite function, to cover the knowledge of the living entity that he is spirit, soul and part and parcel of Krishna. So, the Shuddha Sattva, Vishuddha Sattva guna in the spiritual world is what sustains the entire spiritual world. The spiritual world, the manifestation of the spiritual world, the various paraphernalia that Krishna uses, the different devotees of Krishna, they are all manifested and sustained by Vishuddha Sattva guna. Therefore, if we have to go to the spiritual world, we have to transfer ourselves from the influence of the three modes of material nature. We have to transfer ourselves from the influence of Rajoguna, Tamoguna and Sattva guna to Vishuddha Sattva guna. Then only we can go to the spiritual world. Now, how to come to the position of Vishuddha Sattva guna? We have to come to the position of Shuddha Sattva by the process of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the only process by which we can come to the stage of Shuddha Sattva. By the process of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, we can come to the stage of Sattva guna, which is still binding us to this material world. It cannot liberate us fully from the material world. Therefore, the only process of Bhakti Yoga is the one which can transfer us to Shuddha Sattva guna, where we constantly are in remembrance of Krishna and we are fixed in the conception that I am not the body, I am a spirit soul and I am eternally a servant of Krishna. That is a function of Shuddha Sattva guna. And so the only way to transfer ourselves, elevate ourselves to that Shuddha Sattva guna is by performing devotional service. The practices that Prabhupada has given us of chanting 16 malas, having our morning sadhana program, attending Mangala Arati, Guru Puja, Darshana Arati, all these things, hearing Bhagavatam, reading Bhagavad-gita, all these practices actually elevate us to the platform of Shuddha Sattva guna, so that we can become pure devotees and go back to Godhead. Is that okay? We'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.